So not that this is a breaking news story or a surprise to really anybody, but the Bills are awesome. They're so good. They put it on display once again in their home opener Monday night against Tennessee, 41-7 win, kind of exercising the demons, if you want to call them demons. I alluded to this last week in my video. It's a little bit of bad blood there with the Titans. They've had two really strange losses to them over the past couple of years. They got beat down on Tuesday Night Football by Tennessee, and then the really close game last year that Allen slips, and there was chippiness, as the commentators like to say. It was chippy games, but Tennessee is clearly a team going down. They're going downward. They have peaked with Ryan Tannehill, and the Bills continue to be amazing with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and even on defense. I was super impressed by the defense. Obviously I want to talk about the offense. I'm super impressed by the defense. Only giving up 187 yards. They forced 4 turnovers. The worst drive of the game was obviously the first one. It's tied 7-7 after the first drive for each team. But I've seen that so many times, I feel like, with Sean McDermott's Bills. They have given up touchdowns or given up points or given up, even yardage, big plays, what have you, anything like that. You worry about them after the first drive or something like that. Fans are just watching the game and they're like, defense has got to tighten this up. And they always do. Almost always do. Like, they got beat here. McDermott sees what they're doing. He adjusts. It's over. Tennessee literally just had that one good drive. I'm looking at the drive chart right now. 9 plays, 75 yards. There was a roughing the passer penalty on it. A dropped interception went right through Poyer's hands. That's how that could have ended. But after that, there was nothing. Derrick Henry did nothing. 25 yards rushing throughout the entire game. Ryan Tannehill could do nothing. He ended up being replaced by Malik Willis later in the game. Look at this. Touchdown, punt, punt, end of half, punt, interception, interception, punt, fumble, punt. Kudos to the defense. They certainly tightened it up after the first drive, and they were a little shorthanded because there were injuries coming into the game with Ed Oliver and Tim Settle. They sustained injuries within the game to Dane Jackson. Thankfully, he's going to be okay. I just don't know what his status is moving forward, but absolutely, positively glad to see that he's okay. Micah Hyde as well with a neck injury. Matt Milano had a stinger. Looks like he's going to be fine to play. Poyer, a foot injury. So, there's questions to be answered, at least for 1 week, going into this game against Miami. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But, there's reason to be at least a little bit concerned. Because you're down Trey White, obviously. You're down Dane Jackson. Are you down Hyde and Poyer? Both of them? Hyde's not practicing early in the week. Poyer is limited and not practicing. That's got to set an alarm off a little bit. And after what Miami did this past week with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it's got my attention, for sure. But let me talk about the Bills' offense on Monday night against Tennessee first. And get into a couple other things. I promise we'll get to the Dolphins. Allen and Diggs, wow. What a tandem. Those poor corners on Tennessee could not hang with Stephon Diggs. Roger McCreary, I think, led them with 11 tackles. That's not really a good thing for a corner. The Bills were just abusing him. If he played off, Diggs would run a 5-yard out and get 5 to 10 yards if he got some yak. If he played up, Diggs would beat him deep, which he did for a touchdown. Caleb Farley, same thing. They were just no match for Allen and Diggs. I saw a stat, Allen targeting Diggs this year, through 2 games obviously, 20 of 22 for 270 and 4 touchdowns through 2 games. Love to see that continue. Headed into Miami this week, who might be down a couple players themselves. Here I am talking about Miami. I want to obviously finish my thoughts here on the Tennessee game. Not a lot rushing the football. The Bills' leading rusher ended up being James Cook, but a lot of that was later in the game. The Bills called almost 20 consecutive pass plays, I feel like, and why not? Tennessee was otherwise helpless against it. But I guess that's my summation. The Bills continue to be awesome. They are 2-0. They're one of 3 2-0 teams remaining in the AFC. The others being Miami and Kansas City. So there will, at most, be 2 after this upcoming weekend when the Bills play Miami. Who would have thought? Game of the week right there. Dolphins fans, be careful what you wish for with this bring on Buffalo stuff. I mean, the Bills have put over 400 yards up in both games. They're averaging 36 points per game. They've only allowed 17 in total. And yeah, they might, I don't know, the Rams were really good. They won the Super Bowl last year. Titans had Derrick Henry, and he was useless. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, present a threat. Of course they do. What do I want to... I want to give them credit. I want to give Miami credit for coming back against Baltimore, but I think I want to blame that more on Baltimore. Do good teams get behind 35-14 or 28-7? I mean, Miami was getting absolutely walked in that game, and then I'm going to say like that maybe Baltimore turned on cruise control, and they were like, all right, let's calm this down here. And then that when you turn that off, it's hard to go back to where you were in the first 3 quarters. But I feel like that kind of diminishes the accomplishments that Miami made, and I really don't mean to do that because it's not easy to throw for 469 yards and 6 touchdowns. I'll admit, right off the bat, I was not a Tua believer. I would have much rather had Justin Herbert than Tua. And after the first year of Justin Herbert, I was thinking, wow, I bet all Miami fans wish they had Justin Herbert instead of Tua. And I feel like probably right now they're not saying that. But it still might be true. Although maybe Tua just doesn't have to be good. He had a great game, don't get me wrong. But maybe he doesn't have to be as good as we think he has to be just because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are that good. I mean, he targeted them 32 times last week. 22 catches, 361 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's just them. Gesicki added 4 for 41 and a touchdown himself. But, he's still a nice tight end threat, I guess. But, where the real threats are. And if the Bills are down Dane Jackson and they're down Hyde and Poyer, everyone likes to say, oh, the Bills, they don't get beat deep. They don't get beat deep. It's just, we usually have Hyde and Poyer in the game too. So I'm a little nervous about that. I think it's fair to be to simultaneously think that Miami's not really a threat to your division title, but be worried about it for 60 minutes on Sunday. Not even necessarily your division. I'm not worried about if the Bills lose this game. I'm really not worried about losing the division still. I'm just worried about losing Miami, I guess. Although, I'm focusing so much here on the defense, and I haven't even addressed the fact that Josh Allen has won 7 consecutive games against them, and really only one of them was even close. 26-11, 35-0 last year. That was the game Tua left in the first quarter, and it ended up being Jacoby Brissett. 56-26. All Miami had to do was win and get in the playoffs. They lose by 30. 31-28 in Miami in 2020. That was the close one. 37-20, 31-21, 42-17. These are beatdowns in the last 7 games. Josh's career against Miami, 7-1, just under 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 5 picks. And he's added 4 rushing touchdowns. So 25 total touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I mean, I expect that to continue. The Dolphins are battling injuries of their own, especially on defense. Melvin Ingram sitting out early in the week. Xavier Howard sitting out early in the week. Their prospects of playing might be pretty good, but why do I think they're going to stop the Bills? Even if Gabe Davis doesn't play, Bills just put up 34 points on offense. They got some lucky breaks, a fumbled punt. The the pick six that gave them the 41 points, but that's not necessarily luck. Fumbled punt, I guess, is luck. You can't control what the guy does with the punt. You can only recover it. And they did, fortunately. I think it only led to 3 points after that anyway. But, nobody's just a match. Nobody's a match to me for the Bills. Like, nobody is, to me, I don't want to say on their level, but, like, what are their 3 hardest games remaining? I guess this is how I'll look at it. I think their 3 toughest games left on their schedule is this week at Miami, and really only because of the circumstances surrounding it with injuries, at Baltimore the following week, and at Kansas City in 3 weeks. So, the 3 hardest games left on their schedule are in the next 4 weeks. Like, after the Kansas City game, they have the bye, and then 11 more games. It's like Green Bay, the Jets, Minnesota, Cleveland, Detroit, New England, New York Jets again, Miami, Chicago, Cincinnati, Patriots. Like, what's the minimum there? I think 9-2 minimum. I'm going to expect 10-1, and maybe they get tripped up at some point. They tripped up a couple of times last year, more than a couple of times last year. Indy pounded them. They puked all over themselves in Jacksonville. It could happen. But, like, what's the baseline record here for the Bills? I think it's 14-3 minimum. I don't think it's insane to suggest that they might go undefeated. And I might feel stupid having said that next week if they lose to Miami. It might make me feel stupid. I know that there's, like I said, there's injuries are playing a factor. I think the Bills at full strength are better than Miami. How could you not say that? The Bills won the division last year. They swept Miami. They've swept Miami 3 consecutive years. I'm supposed to believe, now they're better? I'm going to give them credit. I gave them credit. Don't look at me like, you better pay attention to this Miami team. I'm paying attention. I think Tyreek Hill is probably the most valuable non-quarterback maybe in the entire league. Certainly on offense. The most valuable offensive player that doesn't play quarterback is Tyreek Hill. I don't think there's any debating that anymore. He's amazing. He's killed the Bills just about every time they've played him. He might do it again. Doesn't mean Miami's going to win the game. When the Bills win, they win big. Like, look at this. They're outscoring their opponents 72-17. When was the last time they played a one-score game and won? I legitimately don't remember. I could go back through the years here and look it up. It definitely didn't happen last year. So, I'm going to pick the Bills. I'm going to pick the Bills to beat Miami because they have been beating Miami. I'm going to pick them to beat them by 2 scores because that's what they do. Even this past week against Tennessee, I'm watching the game and it's 7-7 early on, and this guy at the game says to me, "Hey, going to be a close one." And I said, "Is it?" I don't know. I'm not convinced. And this might have been after the first couple of drives where the Bills had ran a weird 4th down play they didn't convert on, and they come up with some stops on defense. They're going back and forth. Tennessee was driving for the lead at least a couple of times. I said, you know what? If they stop making mistakes and these weird occurrences on 4th down and stuff, they're going to beat the brakes off this team. And that's exactly what they did. They got 10 points before the half to extend the lead to 10. They're only 10-point favorites. They've got it at halftime. And they scored 24 consecutive points, 24-0 in the second half. So I don't think they're the 24-0 second half type of game against Miami, especially if they're down 3 guys in the secondary. But I'm going to pick them to win, 38-27, just because I don't think Miami can stop the Bills. I think Davis, if he's healthy enough to play, which remains to be seen, Xavier Howard's a nice player, sure. If Nick Needham and Noah Igbenogany have to play, advantage Bills all day. If they're not getting pressure with like Melvin Ingram, advantage Bills, and Josh is good enough to escape that pressure. So I might pick the Bills to win every game this year. I really might, because I think they're that good. I really do. So there it is. There you have it. Bills 38, Dolphins 17. No, 27. 38-27. Excuse me. Anyway, guys, enjoy your weekend. Hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and username are the same thing. If you're going to the game, represent. as always, above all else, go Bills.